So I watch a lot of movies, and I'm gonna assume that most people that are gonna be seeing, this, given it's online, watch some form of extremely long form content too. Be it, actual production movies that go out in theaters, or, student films, or video essays, stuff like that, just things that just get out there. And, especially for movies, we have letterboxd. And I really like letterboxd. I only got it like a month ago maybe, but I really enjoy it. I like to be able to, rate the movies, and I think I do a pretty good job of staying objective about it. And, telling people what I think and giving, breakdowns on some movies. But I think that we need letterboxd for other things. Because it's a really good way to do it. It's a really good way to do it, right? Like after I started like getting really comfortable with letterboxd, I looked up literally letterbox for like basically just like letterbox for other stuff, like for books, whatever. And I found a 12-year-old Reddit post that's like, oh, is there a letterbox alternative for books? There isn't. Nobody's done anything like that for anything else, and I don't get why. Like, people clearly want it, right? I that's just money sitting on the table for whoever makes that choice and actually goes through and makes that. Like, if I could go online and write about and act the way I do about movies I've seen with books or with games, like you see that over there, see those bookshelves behind me. I got a lot of them. I'd love to talk about that. I'd love to talk about like literally any other medium like that because it would be great, and it allows for a lot of discussion. Immediately after Letterbox started popping off, you see people going back into like going to theaters for the sole purpose of seeing a movie and like reviewing it because they want that experience and they want to partake in that communal nature of Letterboxd, where you and your friends or people online or people you watch and follow, etc., whatever, share that experience with them of seeing the movie and sharing your thoughts about it. It's a really good way to build up some sense of community, especially now when that's such a hard thing to come by. But nobody else has done it. There's no letterbox alternative for books. As far as I'm aware, there's no letterbox alternative. As far as I'm aware, there's no letterbox alternative for books. There isn't one for music. There isn't one for games. Whatever. Why not? Hell, even for non-media related things. Like, sure, TV shows, books, video games, consoles, whatever. Imagine if you could, like, rate places like you could movies on Letterboxd. Imagine, like, if anything, some travel company should do that because you know what? That'll make them money because people are going to see, oh, you can, like, oh, my friends are doing this. You know what? I should do it too. Obviously, it might not be, oh, international trip, but, that would make them money. And I don't think, personally, like, I'm very much against the idea of capitalism. This is more out of the shock of why hasn't anyone had that idea yet? Especially because Letterboxd again has been around for a long time, even though it only picked up steam in the last few years. But so many other mediums are just have ripe opportunities that none of these companies have taken, and I find it a little interesting because you'd think that as soon as Letterboxd became popular and started, going up with everyone using it, it would be something that other companies and industries would try to replicate, but they haven't. Like, I mean, Goodreads kinda does something similar for books, but not really. And I'd rather, walk right onto I-95 than do anything related to book talk. So having a website where anyone, that's basically a social media, a form of social media with music, with books, with games, with anything, with any activity that is not restricted to a certain segment of the population would be great. Just as a fun thing to do. And some company, again, could very easily turn that into something, but they don't. which is a good thing because, immediately if any other company tries to do what Letterboxd does, it's going to be some paid membership service where it's, oh, $10 a month and you can log up to 10 books or 100 songs or whatever. Because of course they are. Because if a company tries to do it, their first motive isn't going to be, oh, the enjoyment of the people, oh, community. No, it's going to be, oh, how do we get as much money from this as possible? And that's probably why nobody's done it yet, because you need independent developers to want to do that. Like, Letterboxd exists because somebody, a team, wanted to do that. A team in New Zealand wanted to make Letterboxd. So for every other platform that, like, for every other medium that could do well with something like that, you need developers that want to do that. But that takes a lot of time and effort and money. You need to make it look good, especially in this day and age. If you're not putting it out the gate looking good, people just aren't going to fucking care. You need it to run well, which means you need to be paying a lot right out the gate. You need it to have, like, you need to be importing pretty much everything immediately. You need to be pulling from, like, every data source you can. I mean, just for the Wii, like, with video games, for example, just for the Wii, there's about 1,500 officially licensed games. That's one console. And that's on the lower end of what typically comes out for a console, And especially with earlier systems, NES, SNES, Atari 2600. I don't think there exists, full master ROMs that have the entire list of everything, or just compiled lists of every single game in general, because especially back then, there's a lot of unlicensed games that we simply do not have record of. I mean, sometimes we do. With the Super Nintendo, for example, Super Noah's Ark 3D, hilarious game, and pretty much the only unlicensed console game to ever get a retail release. But besides the point. The point being is that we need it. Like, people would love to do that, and I'm sure people would give the money. But you need people that want that in the first place, that are willing to pay for it. And that's the problem. Like, you understand the problem here? It's a double-edged sword. Because you need developers who want to make it of their own free will, who want to do it because they would enjoy it. But at the same time, you need to convince people to be, to kind of give them money early on so they can support themselves, if someone's working a dead-end 9 to 5, they're not going to have the time or the wants to, go and, make whatever. But if they have the backing, if people are willing to give money, then they could. But nobody's going to want to give the money if there's nothing to give money to. They're not going to want to give the money if it's on the hopes that the program will actually go through. Because, I mean, there's a lot of scams that have come out of things like Kickstarter and GoFundMe, were like, oh, give us money and help us do this, that, whatever. And nothing came through. I mean, look at Friday Night Funkin'. They're still trying to do what they promised because they kept doing joke stretch goals, and now it just kind of ended up being a scam. So the fundamental thing is, if you want to see things like Letterboxd for any other medium, be it books, games, music, or non-media things like travel or whatever. I mean, hell, I think it would be funny if there was like a Letterboxd thing for like flights, like flying planes. That'd be really funny. But if you want that, you need people that are going to be willing to put money basically up front under the assumption that the program's not just going to stop in 2 weeks. And that's really hard to come by because nobody trusts anybody online anymore. Oh, well, what are you going to do? I just have to sit here and hope that eventually one day I'll be able to write a review, on an app about this. See? Because I got... Oh, I just knocked someone over. Oh, it's so over. Yeah, that's kind of all I had to complain about right now. I just kind of woke up and was a little angry. Well, not angry, but a little perturbed, want to share my opinion. So yeah, bye.